Los Angeles has declared a state of emergency after a wildfire exploded over 2,900 acres and forced tens of thousands to evacuate. Meanwhile, the Eaton Fire, about 30 miles inland near Pasadena, doubled in size to 400 acres within a matter of hours, prompting the evacuation of nearly 100 nursing home residents. Meanwhile, a third fire, the Hurst Fire as it's being called, has also erupted in Sylmar in the San Fernando Valley, forcing more evacuations. Now, firefighters are battling all three blazes as they race against time to contain the destruction. Millions of people in California are under a red flag warning, meaning there is an extreme fire danger. Fire Chief Kristen Crowley has said over 30,000 people are under evacuation orders and 13,000 buildings under threat. Officials say strong winds and dry weather fueled the Palisades fire, which destroyed multiple buildings and injured several people. Now, this includes a firefighter. Listen in.
Population threatened is approximately 25,748. Households threatened is approximately 10,367. Structures threatened are approximately 13,208. At this point, we feel very blessed at this point that there's no injuries that are reported. We do have reports of multiple structures that are damaged.
Rescue and relief efforts are underway after a 6.8 magnitude earthquake jolted Tibet's Tingri County on Tuesday morning. At least 407 people have been rescued after being trapped following the quake, while 14 resettlement sites have been set up to provide emergency shelter to more than 30,000 people displaced in the disaster. On Tuesday morning, a 90-year-old resident was also successfully rescued by local officers and cadres in a village in the country's Chulho township and was moved to emergency shelter after an all-site medical check. A seaplane crashed shortly after takeoff from a Western Australian island, killing 3 people and injuring 3 others. Police have said only one of the 7 people aboard the Cessna 208 Caravan was rescued without injury after the crash Tuesday afternoon on Rottnest Island. Now, the plane owned by Swan River Seaplane was returning to its base in Perth, 30 kilometers east of the island, also known by its indigenous name, Wajma. Listen in to the Western Australia Premier, Roger Cook.
It is my sad duty to confirm that 3 lives were lost when a seaplane crashed moments after takeoff at Thompson Bay. The bodies of the 3 deceased were recovered from the wreckage by water police divers last night. The victims include a 65-year-old woman, a passenger who we understand was a Swiss tourist, a 60-year-old man, a passenger believed to be a tourist from Denmark, and a 34-year-old man who was the pilot who lived in Perth. My thoughts go out to the families and friends of the victims. This is no doubt very difficult for everyone involved. And on behalf of every Western Australian, I want you to know that you're in our thoughts and in our prayers.
2 bodies have been found in the landing gear compartment of a JetBlue aircraft at a South Florida airport. Now, the aircraft had arrived in Fort Lauderdale from John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York. Paramedics declared both people dead at the scene. The agency's homicide and crime scene units are investigating the matter. It's the second time over the past month that the body has been found in the wheel well of an aeroplane. In late December, another body was found in the wheel well of a United Airlines plane after it landed in Maui from Chicago. Protesters have gathered in front of Ecuador's public prosecutor's office to demand justice for 4 children who were murdered in Guayaquil after being detained by the military on the 8th of December last year. Demonstrators took to the streets chanting, "We do not want revenge, we want justice." The armed forces have emphatically denied the involvement of soldiers in the disappearance and killing of the children.
Estamos todos los días plantadas frente a las afueras de las fiscalías y de los consejos judiciales para obtener justicia por nuestras hijas, a lo que se dedica nuestra organización. En muchos casos, hay casos que tenemos hasta 8 años que no han tenido resolución. Sin embargo, el día de hoy se recrudece esta verdad al Ecuador haber perdido 4 hijos, 4 niños de una manera tan cruel en manos de quienes deberían habernos garantizado la vida, como las instituciones de las Fuerzas Armadas y la policía.
Authorities in Las Vegas have revealed that the suspect behind the New Year's Day Tesla Cybertruck explosion outside the Trump International Hotel used ChatGPT to plan the blast. Identified as Army soldier Matthew Livelsberger, the suspect reportedly acted alone in what the FBI has classified as a suicide case. Members of the Republican and the Democratic Party who served during Jimmy Carter's presidential term paid their respect to the former president. The military honor guards, a procession down Pennsylvania Avenue, and a service in the Capitol Rotunda continued public commemorations for Carter, who died on the 29th of December, aged 100. The former president will lie in state Tuesday night and again Wednesday before his remains are moved to National Cathedral. There, President Joe Biden will eulogize Carter. His remains, which had been lying in repose at the Carter Presidential Center since Saturday, left the Atlanta campus Tuesday morning, accompanied by his children and extended family members. South Korean anti-graft investigators secured a new court-ordered arrest warrant Tuesday for impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol, whose failed martial law bid threw the country into turmoil. The former star prosecutor has refused questioning 3 times after his bungled December 3rd martial law decree plunged South Korea into its worst political crisis in decades. As anti-graft officials and police got a fresh warrant from the same court that issued the first order, Yoon was believed to be holed up in his restaurant, surrounded by hundreds of guards preventing his detention. Over in the U.S., a Florida judge has temporarily blocked the release of a Department of Justice Special Counsel report that will detail findings from Donald Trump's classified documents case. Jack Smith led the 2 federal probes into Trump, one on alleged attempts to overturn his 2020 election and defeat, and other on his alleged mishandling of classified documents. Both cases against Trump were shelved when he won the re-election, but Mr. Smith's detailed report was due to be released. On Tuesday, a U.S. district judge who oversaw the classified documents case and controversially dismissed it last July temporarily barred Mr. Smith's or Garland from releasing, sharing, or transmitting the report. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has escalated his expansionist rhetoric, saying he wouldn't rule out using military coercion to take control of Greenland or the Panama Canal for that matter. Now, Trump has issued threats against several U.S. partners. On Tuesday, he floated using economic force to annex Canada, though officials in those nations have staunchly pushed back. He also proposed renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. Listen in.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate. And Mexico has to stop allowing millions of people to pour into our country. They can stop them. And we're going to put very serious tariffs on Mexico and Canada, because Canada, they come through Canada too, and the drugs that are coming through are at record numbers. So we're going to make up for that by putting tariffs on Mexico and Canada, substantial tariffs.
Outgoing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has slammed President-elect Donald Trump's argument that Canada should join the U.S. Trudeau took to social media platform X. He stated, "There isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. Workers and communities in both our countries benefit from being each other's biggest trading and security partner." Now, the post came after Trump held a press conference where he said he would not consider using military force to make Canada the 51st state, but would use quote-unquote economic force. He argued that the U.S. had spent hundreds of billions of dollars to protect Canada, even as the Americas run a trade deficit. Trump has on numerous occasions suggested that Canada become the 51st state and has even referred Trudeau as Governor of Canada. Canadian politician Anita Anand, currently the Minister of Transport in Justin Trudeau's government, is being considered as a candidate to replace him as Prime Minister. Anand is one of the front-runners to becoming the Prime Minister of Canada. If she gets elected, she will become the first woman of colour and of Indian descent to become the PM of Canada. She will take over from Justin Trudeau should her Liberal Party appoint her to the post. US President-elect Donald Trump told residents of Greenland that we are going to treat you well, as his oldest son visited the mineral-rich Danish territory that's home to a large US military base. Now, this has heightened speculation that the incoming US administration could seek to acquire Greenland. The president-elect said he wouldn't rule out using military force or economic coercion to take control of Greenland, saying that he needs it for national security. Former US Representative Matt Gaetz is starting to think about running for governor in 2026 in his home state of Florida. The three-term congressman who represented Florida resigned in November after US President-elect Donald Trump chose Gaetz as his next US Attorney General. However, he withdrew from consideration for that job amid a storm of controversy. Florida has a limit of 2 consecutive 4-year terms for its governor. As a result, Florida will have to elect a new governor in 2026, once incumbent Ron DeSantis, who is already serving his second term, leaves office. In a high-level delegation meeting with his Maldivian counterpart, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh highlighted the strengthened ties between India and the Maldives following President Mohammad Muizzu's October 2024 state visit to New Delhi. Now, Singh emphasized that the importance of the joint vision document released during that visit, calling it a guiding framework for bilateral cooperation. Singh also reaffirmed India's commitment to supporting the Maldives through defense training, equipment and capacity building projects under the Neighborhood First policy and the Sagar initiative. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the 18th edition of the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas Convention, a key initiative of the government to connect and engage with the Indian diaspora in Odisha's Bhubaneswar on the 9th of January. President of Trinidad and Tobago, Christine Carla Kangulu, the chief guest, will address the gathering virtually. The Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is celebrated on the 9th of January to mark Mahatma Gandhi's return from South Africa to India back in 1915.